everybody. Sorry, guys. Angus had a last-minute emergency, so I told him I would do this. He said he wanted me to make sure I kept all the stuff he wrote, so bear with me, okay? I haven't read this before. Hi, everybody. I'm Angus. Before I get into this, if anybody needs a haircut later on, I will be on the outside. I am not at all in the car business, but I love cars. Loved them since I was a kid. Everything from hot rods and pickup trucks to, spoiler alert, the very first car, electric car. That's right. My dad actually made one of the very first electric cars. By the way, this is not me personally, but just keep going. He'd drive it all around Hawaii, and of course, I would ride shotgun whenever I got the chance, which is why when Debbie and Asher asked me to moderate a panel on Hollywood and alternative vehicles, two things that are near and dear to me and to Toyota, one of the all-time greatest automotive manufacturers, I jumped at the chance. All right. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the stage actors, activists, and EMA Board Member Emmanuelle Chriqui and Krisy Drutman. That's right. Come on out. I'd also like to invite out Toyota All-Star Sam Carmell. And finally, fashion guru, car dealer to the stars, double EMA Board member, the one and only Mike LAcarGUY Sullivan. All right. All right, great. So, Mike, you met...
sit down first.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. All right, Mike, you met us in 2001 when Toyota did a full launch of the Prius. Apparently, you had the dealerships that sold all of the Priuses in Hollywood. That's right. In fact, you and my mom, Debbie, created the quote-unquote list that all of the entertainment people needed to beg, borrow, and steal to get on to grab the Prius. Let me ask you a question. How did you guys... I was still in college at this time. How did you guys concoct this plan to take this little car?
I was an innocent car salesman.
Right.
Debbie concocted the whole damn thing.
There we go.
I didn't concoct anything. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but...
No, it's okay. I guess you answered it. How did it gain steam, and when did you realize something was really happening there?
It was an interesting segue. I'll make it as... I only have one long answer, so I'm not going to... Don't trust me, all of them aren't. It was fun. So Debbie's a fairly new relationship with Deb and I, and she calls one day and she says, I want to take movie stars to the Academy Awards in Priuses. And you got to remember what the Prius looked like then. I mean, it was never real handsome. It was just ugly. And I went, well, that's a great idea, you know. She goes, can you get 12 of them? And I went, no, we're sold out. I got a list for 6 months. So Toyota comes through and gives me 12 cars. So we take all these celebrities through. And it was exactly what we needed and what we wanted and what Toyota needed. We couldn't have stood out anymore. It was, I mean, we really stood out. You know, people were driving limos and all typical stuff on the red carpet, and we show up and it was cool. But it really started a movement. It's true. We came back and all of a sudden the front of camera people were saying it was cool, and that made it acceptable. And the back of camera people, the writers, the runners, loved it. And they could do something good, save money, cut their gas bill in half, and feel good about themselves. So it was just really interesting. It wasn't just in front of camera. It was really everybody, the Hollywood thing. So Debbie comes up with a list. I honestly, of course, I didn't do the list. Debbie comes up, and we're inviting these, and so it just kind of popped. It was one of those little things we all do every day that kind of turned into a fairly big thing.
So, question there. Celebrities are driving this car, and the entertainment community
being driven. They got out of the back seat.
Right, but then they get the cars. They're getting the cars.
Yeah.
It's very much a California story to begin with. The entertainment people are adopting this car. Agencies using it for their fleets. They start popping up in television shows. And when was the moment when the public started calling you, people that have been buying cars from you for years, and said, hey, that weird car that I just saw on a television show, or I just saw, Brad Pitt walking out of. I want that car. Can you get me that car? When did that happen? How early adopting was that?
2 years. So we made it. The car was an icebreaker. Two quick stories. Cameron Diaz went on the Tonight Show and, in her own style, kind of blathered on and on about me, Prius, Hollywood, blah, blah, blah. It was outstanding. About a 3-minute monologue she did on me. The next week, I was at the Santa Monica store, and Mr. Hanks was in there, and he came behind the desk and was ordering people to take that up, take that deal, get that car appraised, and just on his own, just ad lib. This car became this icebreaker between classes, between money, between front and back. It was really a weird piece that fit in there. So that was when it really became, it was for everybody.
Right, and the other thing with that, we'll move on from this in a second, Mike. It's just like me and you were talking here. I think the interesting thing with Prius and with most of the Toyota fleet is when, like, Tesla's cool, right?
Yep.
Tesla's cool. Everybody wants to be associated with Tesla as a brand. Tesla doesn't really fit into most people's lifestyles, right? So it might be aspirational, but it is not functional, right? When Prius came in, the price point was never all the way up here, even when it was sticker price high. And even when it was overmarked, it was still much lower price of entry to be a movie star, basically, and drive a movie star car, right?
That was exactly it.
Style-wise, and it does remind me a little bit, Sam, of, in a very different way, the Corolla, where, the Corolla came out. No, but for real, if you guys look at Car and Driver over the last 45 years, you'll see that the Corolla is number 1, number 2 for the entire amount of that time, correct? As far as sales, correct?
And I think something else super interesting you said, we launched the Prius at $19,995. If you convert that to $2023, that's $33,000-ish, and we're still selling the Prius at a starting price of $27,000. So it's still a way for somebody to get into the green movement or to do the right thing for the environment with their everyday driving, which is much
You guys
lower.
are in the business of moving volume. You're in the business of getting people into cars that actually can, buy them, and not to watch their friend who just, sold their company get into a Tesla and be like, why the fuck can't I get that, right?
We like them too.
I think that's a really cool and a unique quality to Toyota. And as other automotive companies try to adapt to that, they can advertise it, but they actually can't functionally perform it in the same way, because you guys have had these fleets for so long. All right, I will speed this along. Emmanuelle, the Prius became Hollywood's car. We were just talking about this. I guess we'd like you to be the man on the street here, or the email on the street for this, right?
Yeah.
And tell your story about your first Prius.
My first Prius.
And how you have stayed basically in the Prius Toyota family
Pretty
for...
much, except for 15 years.
15 years?
Except for my last lease.
Well, we don't need to talk about that.
Exactly.
We're going to redact that.
We're going to
go to all the
redact
rest of the stuff.
No, it's actually funny because my first car was a Toyota Corolla, 1988, 2-door, flip-top lights, red. We called her Little Red. And it was the first car that I bought when I moved to LA from Canada, a whopping $3,000. And I was on You Don't Mess with the Zohan. And I was finally able to afford a lease, like a real lease.
You were still in Big Red, Little Red.
Little Red.
Little Red.
Little Red.
Yeah.
I mean, the press knew Little Red. Okay, it was a thing. And I was like, my dream wasn't to drive a sexy sports car. My dream was to get into a Prius.
Right.
So your initiatives were really, it was all happening. And I was like, that is what I want. Oh my God, I want a Prius. And fellow board member and one of my best friends, Lance Bass.
We'll be here tomorrow. So guys, come back tomorrow.
Put me in touch with our beloved Debbie Levin.
Yep.
And Debbie was the one who put me in touch, and I, got my first of 4 Priuses. And it was really thrilling for me.
Yeah.
But it was part of that movement. It was really cool, and it was like you were making a statement.
Yep.
You were like, I want to be a part of this.
Right.
So that was my
And
first-
also, side note, right, for Sam and for Mike, not for you, Krisy. Em really wants the new Prius.
No, we know that.
And
It's kind of a charcoal gray. It's
we
not-
really need to get her in it because we don't want her to lease another car.
He even gave me a deadline of the end of this month.
Great.
So that's awesome.
Fantastic. All right. Okay, Sam, back to you here. The Prius has evolved. We're just talking about the Prius.
Yeah.
Prius has evolved to fit many lifestyles. How does this help amplify Toyota's portfolio approach? So it's like a gateway drug, right? So with regards to the alt view, the alt vehicles, right? So Prius comes in. It's like you're smoking a joint at a party in 8th grade or whatever it is, right? So now you have the full menu of different automotive drugs to sample here. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So how does that work now that you know that? And I'll do it a different way, right? Okay. When you start a company now, a tech company, one of your most important things is obviously to get a user base, right? So you can continue selling to the users. So now that you guys have all of these users that are used to Prius and also Lexus and all these other things that have been in your fleet for like over a decade, how do you now re-engage them with all of your new stuff?
Yeah, so when we brought Prius to the United States in 2000, so we're on our 23rd year, and we are launching our 5th generation Prius, which was referenced. There's a blue one outside. I hope everyone takes a look. The automotive journalists would never have said what they're saying about the 5th generation car. They described this car as sexy. Go Google it. Motor Trend, Car and Driver both said that. The first Prius was weird looking. We'll be honest about it. It was meant to be a statement, right? People that wanted it wanted to be green conscious. Now, as you said about the family, our portfolio, we just had that one car in our lineup. We now have 18 nameplates within the Toyota lineup. 10 of them are offered as either hybrid only or electric. 4 that are hybrid or gas, and then we only have 4 models that are left that are gas only. And that kind of shows you that
That's
gateway
crazy.
drug. We started with 1, and we're already almost to the whole lineup now that's offered. We have everything from Prius to, I'm currently driving our hybrid Sequoia, which is our big 8-passenger off-road SUV, decreased carbon by 4 times versus the prior generation car. Nobody would ever thought that this big truck would get the mileage that it's getting and still doing your part for the environment compared to some of its competitors.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, Mike. Krisy, we're almost to you.
Thanks for giving him the question about
You're
drugs.
on here as well.
I'm glad he got the
as
one
well
on.
hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Last question for you. My question is as follows, and it's a little bit off of the Toyota.
Okay.
We're going to go off the Toyota off-ramp for a second and just talk about the LA car guy. Okay. All right.
Even better.
So you have to take one scoot over from you, huh?
So Toyota comes out and blazes the trail with regards to alternative and electric vehicle. Okay. Now you have a gazillion dealerships, lots of different brands. How has this revolution impacted your dealerships when someone makes a call, they ask for a new car? How often is it, hey, is it hybrid, is it electric, is it whatever,
Yeah. Interesting, because it's changed that much. The portfolio across the board is full. Tesla's a dominant player for 37% of the world, right? So I agree with you. Spectacular car for part of it. So now there's no loyalty to BEV yet. So if she bought 3 Priuses, if Emma bought 3 Priuses, this would be a typical call. Is like, what's next? What am I doing now? And I have to kind of choose where to put her.
Right.
I know where she lives, how far she drives, where the chargers are, if hydrogen is the right answer. So it becomes a continuing education for us to know what you drive, where, how, when, so we can make the right suggestions. So it hasn't made it easier. It's to some degree it's made it more complex to get the right solution.
Right.
I think that, but it's interesting to watch that lack of loyalty to a brand is clearly out there. We have to earn them back again, and we're doing it.
Right,
Yeah,
and also just to get back to that,
Yep.
To bring it back to Toyota for a second here, and Lexus, people like to buy the same brand that they own all the time, right?
Yeah. We
So-
try to make it really easy, obviously.
Now that you guys, and this is actually both you guys, now that you guys have this. You guys waited to actually have a full menu of cars. Now that you have this full menu, are your loyal buyers now looking again and going, oh great, I don't have to go outside here anymore. I can come back here and I can buy all these cars because these are the things I wanted, but maybe 4 years ago Toyota wasn't really offering.
So I think what you kind of said is that we get people into the brand, and then once you get familiar with the technology, you're more willing to progress to the next one. When Mike just talked about when they call and say, what should I get now? A lot of times the answer is a hybrid, and the consumer maybe be surprised that it's a hybrid, right? They weren't coming in looking for a green car per se, but once they drive a hybrid, then maybe they want to go look at a plug-in hybrid. And then once you figure out what your driving habits are, then maybe a BEV is right for you.
Right.
What we're seeing is the people that are going into BEV that are our loyal Toyota customers, they have graduated from Prius to a plug-in prime product, whether Prius or RAV, and now going to BZ.
Got it.
And then we saw a similar thing with Mirai when that car first came out.
Right. Well, great. Krisy, it's your time to shine. Yep. So you're an LA girl. You live in the East Village now in New York. What do you see as the big difference between the two in terms of cars specifically and cars as status symbol?
I mean, I would just say that, like, when we're thinking about electric vehicles and, like, scalability, we have to think about, like, coming from the East Coast, there's so much access to public transit.
Yep.
And, we can instantly go on a train, and it might be even easier to take a train than taking a car. And so when I think about, like, next generation of drivers, they're thinking about what is the accessibility and affordability of an electric vehicle.
Yep.
And I think, we were talking backstage and talking about that, like, electric vehicles as they stand today maybe are a great, conversation starter and maybe get the next generation through the door. But then we have to think, okay, what are the next steps after that when it comes to affordability, accessibility, and where charging stations are being located, for instance, making sure that it's not an inconvenience for their lifestyle from both a cost perspective, also, the communities where these charging stations are going to be placed, making sure that there's actual economic development opportunities, community benefits. Otherwise, it just feels like electric vehicles, like you were criticizing a Tesla, it might become that, where it's like at the price point, it's great, but then it's like who still is getting included in that conversation? We have to keep pushing that conversation forward.
Well, you kind of stepped on the next question. That's right. But, when you talk to all of your friends who are not in New York, who are in LA, or in places where you need cars, and all of you guys, you really live the talk, right? You're all sustainable. When you look at your roles as next generation drivers, the world is not automated yet. We don't know when it's going to be, and honestly, people love their cars. So we don't know if that may never happen in terms of the ways that we all lofty think it will, where everybody's just going into a tube and getting taken places or being transported.
As much as we wish.
As much as we wish. There are some people that just want the control of getting in a car and deciding where they want to go and where they stop and all this other stuff, right? So when you guys look for cars, okay, what are the things you're looking for?
I think these days, like young people, like I said, obviously the affordability price point, because a lot of us don't even know if we're going to be able to own a home, let alone an electric vehicle. So that's like the first point. But I think on top of that, it's not just about the vehicle itself anymore. It's actually the brand associated with it. So for even, other companies that have been, through and through electric, there might be a little bit more of trust in some ways for maybe a brand like that, and compared to brands where they're making that transition, which I think is awesome that, Toyota is making that transition. I think it's just a matter that the next generation also wants to see that, companies are reflecting their values back. So making sure that they're listening to young people when it comes to things like climate activism, making sure that they're also building, infrastructure and policy that supports that. I think young people are looking for all of that.
By the way, that's one of the things that's really cool about Toyota. Toyota's always been founded on these ideals, and as we know very well with regards to at least Tesla, Elon Musk doesn't really care about anything except for himself. So that's a stark difference. If you're representing yourself with your car, you're obviously wanting to represent yourself with a company that has true ideals. So Sam, back to you. Toyota has created more electric vehicles than just the Prius, and consumers have the BZ4X. and a bunch of hybrid options, and for customers in California, the Mirai. How is Toyota making all the electrified powertrain options relatable to the consumer? That's kind of what we were just talking about, Krisy. And it's the consumers that care about the environment, and also, they want their lifestyle to kind of represent who they are. By the way, this is I didn't mean to tee this up like this. I didn't even. It's Angus. These are Angus's questions, so I didn't even see this. But yeah, if you're, you guys, you obviously you all want to represent yourself with your car, right? So, Sam, you're now going to pretend you're Mike. You're the dealer, okay? Yeah. And you are going to explain to Krisy, who is looking for a car, right, why these cars sort of represent a lifestyle that is aspirationally sustainable.
Yeah, and I think that we were actually just talking about this backstage, and I've had this conversation with many of you in the room over the last, since dinner last night to now, is that a lot of people say, well, I'm not into a BEV yet. I think people expect us as car people to say, what do you mean you don't want a BEV? That's part of Toyota's portfolio approach, right? We have a vehicle that can be sustainable for many. And so we were talking about Krisy living in New York, which I actually just moved from before living here, and charging and infrastructure. The reason you use your car is mainly for a weekend. You want that car to probably pile your friends in. You can do that with one of our products that is a hybrid SUV, a Prius that's a hatch, something like that, that can still be your lifestyle, but your lifestyle is representing you and your friends and whatever else is going on that weekend. And we have a whole plethora of products to do that. The other part, too, is that there's some people that end up driving a hybrid, and we were just talking about with Mike, right, that don't know that they want a hybrid. And although the Prius used to have its look and it's maintained this brand for itself, we have plenty of products that are hybrids that are a little bit more understated and are a little more rugged, which is very different. Rugged and hybrid kind of didn't go together before. Now we've brought in...
You got the Tundra.
Yeah, we got Tundra.
You have
we got
the
Sequoia.
Highlander has
Sequoia.
That's Sequoia.
We got
right.
Sienna, our minivan, is hybrid only. So we have
Rav.
Yeah.
Rav. That's right. And Mike, you told me when we chatted last month that Rav is the most popular of these hybrids.
It's the easiest. It's that segment is the biggest selling.
Right.
And now to get what's historically, and this isn't a Toyota commercial, historically been a great car. That Rav has been known for being a great car. So now to have it in a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid,
right.
just kind of broad, they've got just a really broad scope approach.
Right.
It's hard to get away from us if we've kind of got something for you probably.
Right. All right, awesome. Well, we're back to you, Em. Why do you think? Actually, I'm going to put this to both you,
Sure.
both of you, because both these questions are pretty similar.
Sure.
Can you roll up to? Let me see that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go. All right. So, for both of you,
Yes.
why do you think that why do you think that Hollywood and the entertainment world has a personal connection to Prius? And the second part of this is, what do you think attracts young people? You can take this to him. What do you think attracts young people to alternative and electric vehicles?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the emotional connection is like we're in some ways a liberal bubble in some ways, but I think Hollywood, has an opportunity for the storytelling aspect to make EVs like a starting point to bring more people into the conversation. Like you were saying, people maybe still want their cars, so at least EVs are a conversation starter for a bigger conversation around climate, and I think that alone is like an interesting prospect. But I think on top of that, to get young people attracted to it, again, you got to think about price point, you got to think about education tools, and you got to think, who are the companies behind producing these electric vehicles and educating people, holistically about what that looks like. I think young people really care about that and are doing their research.
Do you think that, and just to follow up to that really quickly, rideshare apps, right? This just popped into my head, but rideshare apps, right? Okay, they have hybrid options, right? Okay, all right. Also, when Uber really started taking off, they took off because of why? What type of cars were everyone driving? Priuses. That's right. That's right.
100%.
So do you think that the younger generations are really aligned? It's really important when you see it on an app and it says that someone's driving a hybrid. Is that the car you choose? If it was like, okay, this person is driving a Hummer, right? And this person will pick you up in a RAV4 hybrid. You're probably going to pick the RAV4 hybrid, right?
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know, there is something about, you know, the generation, you know, our generation and lower, sorry boomers, that actually value the real estate of, great, I'm going to pick this thing because this thing actually will carbon offset a bit more than this other thing. Correct. Yeah. All right.
I'll just piggyback really
Piggyback.
quickly, is that I also think that the emotional connection with Hollywood to the Prius is that, you know, back in the day when it first came out and we had arguably one of the most famous people on the planet, which was Leonardo DiCaprio, booting around in his Prius, he wasn't just, you know, he wasn't only making it cool, he was making it a statement about where he wanted the automotive industry to go.
Right.
And he did it proud. And that was like a very special moment in time that is so uniquely Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that it's real. Like if you were around in that time, that was a really poignant time.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm way out of time. Let me see here. Mike and Sam, should we pick these questions?
No.
We already did that one. Okay, roll up.
Let him talk some more.
Sam.
Yes.
What initiatives is Toyota taking to make vehicles more accessible to the next generation? So you're looking at Krisy here, and she says, you know, me and my friends, we can't really afford the Mirai, for example.
Yeah.
Or the BZ. What are you guys doing to get it into the hands of the next generation and get new buyers that will be generational for you?
I think that goes back to having more vehicles be electrified platform, whether that's hybrid, plug-in hybrid, full electric, etc. Em talked about Corolla, right? Corolla, for many people, that was the way that they came into the Toyota brand.
That's awesome. And then also just one more thing I want to talk about before we break here. I know, speaking to both of you, that there are some pre-owned lease and financing options that younger people are really getting into as a sort of gateway into the Toyota family. And I'd love it if you could just speak a little bit on that, because we do actually have a lot of young people out here today, possible new buyers. I'm just trying to move units for you guys,
waving
okay?
in the back there.
Yes.
So if you could sort of just discuss that, because it is a much lower barrier of entry and a really great way to get involved.
Yeah, I can start, and Mike can jump in here, which is that we've built our reputation based off of the longevity of our products, right? And so they usually have multiple owners. We have a great and award-winning certified pre-owned program that allows more people to get into a Toyota sooner. And I will tell you, the best car deal on the planet right now, you represent other brands, so you can argue with me about this. Pre-owned Mirai, the first generation Mirai, is the best deal available to any consumer. Price point wise, financing, it comes with a fuel card to make sure that you don't have to pay for your hydrogen at the beginning of your ownership period, and it basically pays for yourself. So I'm talking to that back corner.
The other thing is, guys, Mirai needs you in their cars.
Yep.
We need to convince the world, specifically starting in California, that there needs to be more stations. More stations means that there needs to be more drivers, right? They literally will not build stations unless they know that there are drivers that are going to fill in those stations. So if any of you are looking to get into a awesome, very different kind of car, talk to these people. Yeah. There we go. There you go. There you
Got the
go.
list going. I love
That's
it.
right. All right. Well, that's a great way to end this. We're so excited. Thank you for coming on. And Angus, I hope I did you justice. Okay.
I think you did.